All right, this is the second part of lesson 10.1. This time we're going to focus on two variables. We're going to do a quick recap on how you would draw certain graphs using the sketchpad icon. So all equations that start with y equals, we call this slope-intercept form. So the number with the x is the slope, and the number without the x, this is your y-intercept. So positive 1 means that you start from 1 on the y-axis. Now, things like the 2, what we're going to try and remember is this rise over run. Now, if we only have a single number, then we actually create our own fraction by putting it over 1, because 2 divided by 1 is 2. So 2 over 1 means I go up 2, rise 2, and then I run 1. Rise 2, and then I run 1. And that's actually what the graph of 2x plus 1 would actually look like. As I try number 2, this time I look for the number once again without the x, as it starts with y equals. So positive 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it would start from up here. This time I already have a fraction, negative 1/3. So the negative tells me instead of going up 1, I actually go down 1. So down 1, and then I run 3 squares. Go down 1, and then run 3 squares. And then obviously you could join this up as well. Number 3 starts with y equals again. So I'm looking for the number without the x. That's the 2. And x, remember, of course, means 1x. So the slope for this one is actually 1. Much like question 1, this is not a fraction, so make it into a fraction by putting it over 1. So this time this is a positive number, so I rise 1, run 1, rise 1, run 1, rise 1, run 1. And for the last one, 1/2 x minus 1. So I would start from negative 1, as that's the number without the x. I already have my fraction here, 1 over 2, so I rise 1, run 2, rise 1, run 2. And so on, and you can do that for each of the points until you've satisfied that you can see where the pattern is. Now, just a reminder though, of course, you could just type them straight into Desmos and it will actually draw them for you. So you can see it goes through 1 here. You can see that it does go up 2 and across 1 like we talked about. It does start from positive 4 and you can see it goes down 1 and it goes across 3. X plus 2, you can see that it goes through 2 and it goes up 1 and across 1. Also on these types of graphs, try and check where the x and the y intercepts are. So if they give you a picture, that's an easy way to try and match up these pictures. If you can't always see both of them, like as in this question here, remember you can zoom out if you need to, or zoom in until you can see where they are. And you can always click on it. So this one goes through 12, for example, on that axis there. So that's a useful little tool to remind you of as well. And for the last one, the 1/2 x minus 1, negative 1, went up 1 and across 2. And you can see that the x-intercept is 2. So what happens when we change these questions from equals to greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, or less than? So in other words, our inequalities. So here's the first one. So it draws the line, but like the last section, sometimes we get a solid line and sometimes we get a dotted line. So for this one, notice it doesn't have an equal sign. So I got my dotted line. And for questions that start with y equals, greater than is just going to be shaded the above part of the graph. And any coordinate in this point would actually meet this inequality here. So if I was to pick the point, for example, 0, 3, which I can clearly see is in the shaded region, if I was to plug those numbers into here, 0 is greater than 2 times 3 plus 1. That's true. 0 is hold on, there's something. Oh, 3, 0. Okay, hold on. Let me try this again. 0, 3. X is 0. 2 times 0 plus 1 is 1, and 3 is definitely greater than 1. If I mess up like I tried to do here, this is 3, 0, which is not in the shaded region. 0 is greater than 2 times 3 plus 1. 0 is greater than 7. That's not true. And that's, of course, why this is in the unshaded region. So any coordinate that you take from here and substitute into here will actually give you a true statement. Ones that lie on the line, we would not count because notice it says this just says greater than, does not say greater than or equal to. When I have less than or equal to, notice this time I have a solid line, just like I did when I was graphing these earlier. And for the less than, as it starts with y equals, it's going to be below the line, but we always want to type it into Desmos just to check. I was expecting a solid line because of the equals, and greater than, you can see that it's shaded above. And for the last one, less than, so notice I got the dotted line here because it's not equal to, and also that it's shaded below the line. Let me just prove one more point just to show you on here. So 4, 0, which you can see clearly lies in here. 1/2 times 4 is 2. Take away 1 is 1. And indeed 0 is less than 1. That means that statement is true. Whereas if I was to pick 0, 0, which is not in the shaded region, 1/2 of 0 is 0. Take away 1 is -1. And 0 is not less than -1, which is why that point is not shaded. So you can use those to check some of your answers as well. There's your little summary, just to remind you of all the things we just talked about on those graphs. And the ones with special cases, the ones that don't start with Y, are not so obvious to tell. Just because it says greater than, it might not necessarily shaded above. So you always have to check this one. I am expecting a solid line. This one's fine, actually. Solid line was shaded above. And this is where you can get lulled into a false sense of security, because the next one, even though it says less than, notice it's actually shaded above. And kind of because we have this negative value here. Remember when we divide by a negative number, it would flip the inequality. So you always want to check by typing these in just to check. Notice the dotted line because there's no equal sign on this question. This one kind of super confusing. So let's type it in to look. You can see that the dotted line, because it's not equal to, and you can see that it's shaded below, even though it says greater than for this question. Focus on these intercepts as well. If we have to pick out which is the correct graph, we want to try and match up those intercepts as well. And for the last one, looks fairly simple. It's got a Y in it here. It says less than. It's actually shaded above. Notice the Y is actually on the right-hand side of the inequality, not the left-hand side, as which what we saw earlier. So once again, always worth typing them in just to check that you actually have the correct solution to these ones. And yeah, equations that don't start with Y equals, be particularly careful. I would recommend typing in every question on Desmos just to make sure that you have it exactly correct. And that's it for this section. This section is much shorter. Go work on the assignment for lesson 10.1, and that's it for this video.